Have you ever wondered how that package, that hot meal, or even the fresh produce at your local store manages to get to you right on time every single time? Well, behind that convenience, there's this incredible, almost invisible network. And in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on the complex world of city logistics.
You click a button, and boom, a package arrives at your door, sometimes in just a few hours. It feels like magic, right? But what's the real cost of that instant convenience? It's a price that goes way, way beyond the number you see on your receipt.
The answer to that question really lies in something called city logistics. The best way to think about it is like the circulatory system of a city, but instead of blood, it's pumping goods, packages, and all the supplies we need through the urban landscape. It's this constant flow that literally keeps our cities alive and kicking.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the core delivery dilemma that cities are facing. Then we'll dig into who's really paying the price for all this. After that, we'll look at the toolkit planners use to fix things, see how they can actually model a better future, and finally, figure out what this all means for our cities.
So first up, let's talk about the central dilemma. It's this constant tug-of-war, you know? On one side, you've got our demand for faster, cheaper delivery. But on the other side, you have the massive strain this puts on our city's infrastructure, on our environment, and ultimately, on our quality of life.
So, if there's a strain, who's actually feeling it? To really get the true cost, we've got to ask, who are the key players in this complex dance of delivery, and who's actually footing the bill?
It really boils down to three main groups. First, you've got the shippers. Those are the companies sending out the goods. Then you have the freight carriers, the delivery companies with the trucks and drivers making it all happen. And then, well, there's us, the residents, the people who live and work in the cities where all of this is going down.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. The costs are basically split into two big buckets. You've got internal costs. This is the stuff you'd expect, right? The money companies pay directly for things like fuel, driver wages, and truck maintenance. But then there are the external costs, and these are the ones we all pay for, whether we realize it or not. We're talking about pollution, the noise from trucks, and of course, the traffic jams that impact everyone. These are the hidden fees of convenience.
So, what's the solution? Well, according to experts like Professor Eiichi Taniguchi, the whole goal of modern city logistics isn't just to make deliveries cheaper for the companies. No, it's about optimizing the entire system to reduce both those internal costs for businesses and those external costs for society. It's a huge balancing act.
So, how on earth do you solve such a massive balancing act? Well, city planners don't just throw ideas at the wall and hope they stick. They have a really sophisticated process, a whole evaluator's toolkit to systematically find and fix the problems in this network.
This whole process is often called the systems approach, and it's basically a continuous loop. First, they gather a ton of data to clearly define the problems, like, say, too much congestion on one particular street. Next, they use that data to predict the effects of potential solutions, like maybe a new delivery hub. And finally, after they make a change, they review its performance to see if it actually worked. And then, the cycle starts all over again.
And to measure if something is working, they don't just ask, so, is it better? They use what are called key performance indicators, or KPIs. This is how they turn those vague goals into cold, hard data. So, for the environment, they're measuring things like CO2 emissions. For social impact, they might track traffic accidents. Everything gets measured.
Okay, so they know what to measure, but how can they predict the impact of a big new idea before they spend millions of dollars building it? Well, the answer is some pretty powerful computer modeling. One of the most powerful tools in their toolkit is something called a vehicle routing model. You can think of it like a super intelligent GPS, but on a massive scale. Instead of just finding the fastest route for one car, it finds the most efficient routes for an entire fleet of delivery trucks, all while juggling dozens of complex factors at the same time.
And here's the real game changer. These modern models aren't just solving for the lowest cost. They are designed with that triple focus we've been talking about. So the model can be programmed to find a route that not only saves fuel, but also minimizes CO2 emissions and avoids sending heavy trucks through quiet residential neighborhoods when kids are walking to school. It's all about finding the smartest route, not just the shortest one.
So, after all this planning, modeling, and evaluating, what's the big takeaway for our cities? What does this actually mean for the future of the places we call home?
The bottom line is this: we can have both. We can absolutely have the convenience of rapid delivery and cities that are clean, quiet, and safe. The key isn't to stop progress, but to manage it intelligently.
It's through this cycle of defining problems, predicting effects with these powerful models, and then reviewing performance with clear data that we can actually build better, more balanced futures for all of us.
And that leaves us with one last thought, really a question for you. As these systems get smarter, the trade-offs are going to become clearer. Would you be willing to wait an extra day for delivery if it meant less pollution? Or maybe pay a little more for an electric vehicle to drop it off? The future of city logistics isn't just up to the planners. It's also shaped by the choices we make every day. So what trade-offs are you willing to make?